Hey, this is Jesse with Create This, and I believe this is part 4 in my solar generator cloning series. I've got this original solar generator. You can check the previous videos if you want to see what this thing looks like when it's assembled, but we've stripped it down to its bare components, and we are now reassembling the original and also the 3 clones from all the parts that we made. So I just wanted to show a tip. The best thing to do is before you disassemble this, if you can label everything and maybe draw hash marks so that you're sure where everything lines up. But if you don't do that, and I didn't in this case, one thing that can be useful is if you have a small metal rod. This is a lampwork mandrel. The diameter just has to be smaller than the diameter of the drill bit that you used to originally drill the hole. And you can see that it kind of fits in there. And so if you're curious if a piece fits back where it's supposed to go, you can test it by sticking the mandrel in. And you can see in this case the holes line up, so that is most likely where that particular piece goes. Same thing there. And that's really useful for locating your holes. Sometimes when you're reassembling things, you'll have to clamp them or squeeze them if they're a little out of alignment. And it can be useful to stick a rod in there and make sure that the holes have lined up before you reinstall your screws, because you might end up creating a new hole where you didn't intend to if you don't do that. So just a quick tip. Okay, so what I've got to do, I've got the original set up here, and this is where these blocks went. I've got all of these clones, these base plate clones here, and I need to do basically the same thing. But before I show how I'm going to do that, I want to show you how I got these holes here. So this is the bottom of the plate, and these holes represent like casting marks or molding marks in the Pelican case, and I'll just show you how I did that. Okay, so this is one of the Pelican cases that these plates are going into, the batteries. And so what I did is, you can see the casting marks or the molding marks right here. There's one nub there and there's one nub there. Get those screws out of the way. And all I did is I made sure that I knew which side was down. And I did that just by comparing it with the original. And then I just took the plate and I fit it in there, and I would push down. And when you push down pretty hard in those two places, you get indentations in the wood. And then I just took my drill bit and I would drill in the indentations with a larger bit than the diameter of the molding mark. And you don't want to go all the way through. It doesn't really matter if you do, but you probably don't want to go all the way through. You don't have to anyway. Just go about halfway through, and that works pretty well. And then when you put the piece back in there, it has the added benefit of not wiggling around. So it kind of serves to locate it at the bottom. Okay, so back to version number 1 here, the original. So where do you put these blocks? That's the question, right? Anytime you're designing something like this, that's the question. And so the way I did it is I took these little cleats that I made and I placed those first, and then I would drill those down, right? So they would be secure. And then I would just snug the battery up to the cleats and try to center it. And then I would literally just put the blocks on the sides, and I would use a pencil to place a mark there where each block was. And then I would clamp it and flip it over and drill it out and screw it from the bottom. So I'll show how to do this in a minute. All right, so I wasn't really thinking about it when I did this the first time. I just kind of built it, but I'm trying to dissect it for you now. So I think the screws that I used are probably these, and they appear to be 10 by 1 1/2 wood screws. So size 10, I believe that's American. So I've got 2 of those, 2 for this one, 2 for this one, and I just need to drill these holes. So I've decided to use a 1/8 inch drill bit, because that drill bit, you just want your drill bit to be a little smaller than the threads, and that drill bit seems to fit. And I've attempted to recess the drill about the length of the screw portion so that when I put it in there, it doesn't go all the way through. And I just tested that on the side by taking it and putting it right there, and you can see that the drill bit doesn't actually go all the way through, and then I'll countersink the head afterward. I think maybe you're supposed to countersink the head first, but I don't do it that way, so it seems to work okay. So for this, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it with my finger here, hold it. Might want to clamp that first. I don't know. It's up to you. Then for the countersinking, I am very partial to these Champion CSK countersinking bits. I think they're mostly supposed to be used on a drill press, but I use them freehand and they seem to work really well for me. I've never really been very good at gauging which one to use, but I think for this one, I just kind of hold the head up to it, and if it's too big, then I use the one that's the next size down. So I think I'm going to use this one. Looks like it's a 9/64, and just grab it firmly. Try not to cut yourself. Always good advice, right? All right, and then normally when driving screws, I would coat them in a little bit of wax, like toilet bowl wax. You can get those little toilet bowl rings at the Ace Hardware, Lowe's, something like that. I keep one of those around in my woodworking shop, and I would normally coat those, but I'm going to try not doing that this time just because I'm in a hurry. We'll see if it breaks anything. I'll be real mad if it does, but I think it'll be fine. Oop. All right then. All right. These don't have to be perfect. They're just holding the battery so that it doesn't go too far forward. Maybe a step higher on the clutch there. There we go, that's pretty good. All right, and same thing over here. Yeah, these go in a little easier because I think they've been pre-waxed. Okay, so that's it. 2 front cleats are on, and again, the next step is going to be to actually put the battery on there and mark out the side pieces, right? So let's go ahead and do that, just to show how this process works. Kind of center our battery there. And in this case, it looks like my battery was maybe a little bit over, like so, yeah. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's my pencil mark right there. So pretty close. So I'll just get another battery. All right, so same thing, just kind of try to eyeball it and center it. And then take 2 fresh blocks that we cut yesterday. Those on either side. Okay, and just to give you an idea what this is going to look like when it's done, just going to take these, Kind of rest them right there. And that's kind of how they'll be screwed in. Just like that. So the next step is going to be to mark this. So let's get a pencil. Now that we're confident that that's going to fit. All right, and so we're just going to take the pencil and make a quick mark. Take the pencil, make a quick mark. There we go. And then I'm also going to mark the battery, just so that I have another frame of reference for when the battery isn't there. And I know basically where to put those. Okay. So the next step is going to be to remove the batteries, flip these upside down, and drill holes from the bottom into the blocks. And the next step is going to be to attach these blocks to the sides. You can see that I've made pencil marks on either side of the block. So we're just going to be kind of fitting it in there. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it down, and then I'll put the screws in that way. So I'm going to try to make it so that my clamp is in the middle. And I think I'm going to use a 7/64 drill bit for this. So I've got these screws here, and use a 7/64. Looks like it's lined up, so I'm going to go for the gold. Go with the middle one this time. Looks like a 11/32. All right, and I've decided to go ahead and use the wax on these. They just go in a lot easier. I think it's a good practice to just do that. You don't need a lot. Just cover the first couple of threads. Yeah, goes in so much easier that way. Ooh, went a little too deep on that one. A little too deep on that one too. All right. There we go. So there's our first block installed, and now we'll just repeat this procedure over there on that one. All right, same thing on this side. I'm just going to clamp. So I got my clamp installed there. There we go. Hopefully you can see the pencil marks there. I've just kind of lined it up as well as I can. And this time, I don't really want to remove the other pieces. So this time I think I'm going to use one of these other blocks to kind of space it out a little bit. And make sure that hasn't moved. Looks okay to me. Time to countersink. You just kind of want that to be flush. So over drill it if you have to. All right, so now that this is assembled, the only thing to do is to test the battery itself. And I think in order to do that, what I like to do is I like to put the battery on the table and then kind of ease it up onto the plate, just in case it doesn't fit quite right at first. That way I'm not caught holding the battery. And then I just slide it on. There we go. And there we go. Cool. Now we can just assemble everything else around that. And boom, through the magic of video editing, I am done with the base plates. So this is the original, and I've just remounted the side verticals on it. We'll mount those on the other ones tomorrow. And then these are the 3 that I made today. So unfortunately, I've already made a number of mistakes. I had trouble with that one screw. That was my first mistake. I used too long of a screw. The second mistake was in the original one that I made on camera. I believe that was this one. These little feet have 2 dimensions, just because of the material that I made them out of. And I made them with the wider dimension going back into the battery, and I don't think that was correct. So I flipped it. That was the original hole that I made. I flipped it, put another screw in, and so now the taller dimension is going up instead of back into the battery. And so that should give me the proper clearance for the battery inside the case. So that was corrected. Hopefully that'll hold. The screws are a little offset, but there's going to be a battery strap. You know, it'll be fine. The other mistake that I made is on this first one, I used, I believe they're number 8 by 2 screws. So like this, right? But that wasn't actually what I used on the original. The original I used number 8 by 2.5. So I think number 8 by 2 will actually have enough thread to hold that on. So I'm not going to change it. But I did, building the other 2, I did use the proper size screw for that, just to give it a little bit more extra strength. And then finally, in this one here, you can see that I forgot to switch my drill off of drill mode and onto screw driving mode, and I cracked both of these, although I cracked this one quite a bit worse. Again, it's going to have a battery strap on it, so I could correct this, but I'm not going to right now. I think it's probably fine. So hopefully those are the only mistakes that I make for this project. Yeah, right. I'm sure I'll make more. But so far, nothing super serious. I don't think I've run into any showstoppers or redos. So tomorrow we will add more of the verticals, and yeah, we'll just keep moving on.